Hello, everybody. Welcome to Solidarity is Brewing. We're excited to have you here on another one of our Monday night calls. It's wild to think we've been doing this since April now, and it is October, and we have learned a lot. We've done a lot of great solidarity work and heard back from our chapters and our comrades around the world. Tonight is another special International Solidarity is Brewing call. We have special guests here from both Canada and New Zealand tonight, I believe. We also are going to hear from the International Committee from DSA about an event they did last night for international solidarity with other types of workers. And we are, of course, going to go through a little bit of content about our campaign, how things have been going so far, and what things are looking like in the future. So really excited to have you all here. I'm going to give it another minute or two. Just so you know, we are going to record tonight's call. So if you're not comfortable being on camera, it's totally fine to turn off your camera, to change your username to something else, anything that makes you feel good. We welcome an active chat. Just try to keep it on topic. We have a few new cast and crew tonight as well, so we're excited to welcome them to the Solidarity Brewing Committee. So this is part of a series of check-in calls about local and national DSA efforts to support organizing Starbucks workers. This call is intended for a broad audience to learn more about what's happening with organizing Starbucks workers, both here in the US and around the world, and DSA labor solidarity support. I'm excited to tell everyone that DSA Labor is expanding the scope of these calls a little bit. So we are going to be featuring union news from throughout the US in partnership with DSA Labor member Jonah Furman, who, as you may or may not know, writes the newsletter Who Gets the Bird, which is a great source of labor news. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. We also are going to be hearing from Starbucks workers who are organizing around the world and a guest from DSA Labor's International Committee. My name is Heather Hillenbrand. I'm one of the co-chairs of DSA Labor, along with Ryan Coles and Laura Gabby. And we are really excited to have this call for you tonight. If you want to do slide, Amanda. So everyone feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Say hello. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Cleveland. As I've always wanted to say, this time I can finally say it in a not that weird way. We love all our chapters, though, of course. So first, we're going to get started with a couple of community agreements. We want to make sure that this is a comfortable space for everyone to learn and full of solidarity. Next slide, please. Then we're going to, so the goal of these calls is to support workers, and we're here to support them by listening and hearing what they want for support, not to tell them what to do or direct them. We open these calls to everyone, so please treat this like it's a public audience. Don't tell us anything that's super confidential. Feel free to DM us if you have any issues. Riley is our chat monitor today, and they will be more than happy to sort you out if you have questions about Zoom or when we're going to be talking about what. We ask everyone to assume good faith in each other, and we encourage you to have a positive attitude and honor the work of your fellow organizers. We practice step up, step back here, which basically means if you're a person who is used to speaking a whole lot, maybe try and speak a little bit less. If you're a person who doesn't always speak, try to challenge yourself to say something or ask a question, because we are trying to build a really inclusive community space here, but we do want to be mindful of time. We have a lot of people to hear from tonight, and we want to make sure that all of our workers' time is respected, because everyone's busy, everyone's tired, and unfortunately, at the end of the night, we have to say goodbye. So making sure we do everything in a way that just makes it as comfortable as possible for everyone. Please type stack in the chat to add yourself to the queue to speak if at question time. And yeah, everything else we will work through as we go. Next slide, please. So we always say this, right? But listen to workers. Keep in mind that nothing that we do for workers in support should be done without workers. This is a super important moment in labor history, and we're all really excited. We want to put forth great organizing efforts, but we shouldn't ever plan any kind of solidarity action for Starbucks workers or any other workers without talking to them specifically, coordinating, finding out what they want, what they're comfortable with, what's helpful, because they know the most about their working environment. When we're doing solidarity work, it's important to have direct contact with the workers at the job site and ask them what they want and what's good for them. We don't want to make anyone uncomfortable or pressured, and we don't want to make anyone's job more difficult than it already is, because I don't know about you, but I think that my job under capitalism is not great, and most people also feel the same and do not want to be extra stressed out at work. Next slide, please. So we do go over this every time, but just here's a sample timeline of events of what it takes to get to be a union. So we hear a lot, especially when you subscribe to Jonas newsletter, you'll hear even more about labor news, but there's a whole long pathway to getting to a union. First, you start talking to your coworkers and building relationships. Then an organizing committee can form and starting organizing, spreading out to other coworkers. Eventually, coworkers will be signing cards and submitting them to the NLRB. Then there is often a pre-NLRB hearing to decide whether or not an election is going to happen. Then the NLRB gives an election date. As we know, this can be delayed a lot. The NLRB is underfunded, which is really unfortunate, and that's causing some problems for us. And then the workers have time to vote. Sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's mail-in. Then the union is won, yay. This is only the beginning. A lot of the stores we're working with have had successful elections, and now bargaining has begun, but Starbucks is being a real jerk. Unsurprisingly, today they walked away from the table at 5 different stores, and they're going to basically drag out this bargaining process as long as possible. So it's important that we make sure we're checking in with our stores continually and seeing what support they need as bargaining continues, because this process often can take years. I think the average date from union win to final contract is about 405 days now. So very difficult organizing circumstances here in the US. We have not great labor law, but we know that with solidarity, workers can prevail. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, introducing our good friend and comrade, Riley, with a labor news roundup.
Hi, everyone. Can y'all hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Sweet. Okay, so I am neglecting my chat monitoring duties for a couple minutes to give you the labor news roundup. I think this is a new thing that we're doing, but it's almost Halloween, so I think we need something a little bit more festive. Next slide. It's the specter of worker power. Okay, so this is basically just going to be like a roundup of some current, like ongoing labor stuff in the United States, but spooky. Okay, so union workers at the National Labor Relations Board today called on Congress and the White House to increase funding for the NLRB. The labor agency has faced nearly a decade of flat funding, resulting in an effective funding decrease, which threatens the efficacy of their important work. Their Twitter thread that they put out went like super viral this afternoon. I was like watching it go all over my feed. But no, this is cool. This is interesting. I think if anybody has been involved recently with Starbucks organizing in particular, like SBWU has been relying on unfair labor practice charges a lot, and the timeline on those being adjudicated and heard has been very, very long, and that's largely due to the fact that the NLRB is massively underfunded and understaffed, which these workers were calling out publicly today. Number 2, workers at 5 Starbucks locations, which Heather already referenced, were set to engage in contract negotiations today for locations for the first time. corporate representatives abruptly walked out of the meeting, once again stonewalling Starbucks Workers United, complaining of the hybrid format of the negotiations meeting. However, SBWU members deny that this was ever an issue prior to today's negotiations. So essentially, they are just throwing a fit because they don't want any stores to hit a CBA. And doing whatever legalese crap they can do to stall until they can start decertifying unions. Last Monday, ballots went out to all United Auto Workers members to vote for their new leaders. This is the first direct election of union national leadership in the UAW's history and could result in more organizing-oriented leadership. There's like a rank and file caucus, like a more militant caucus that's running a slate of candidates. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's them versus like essentially like the old guard administrative caucus of the union. There's two slates, and we're all cheering on our rank and file power friends. And then lastly, Railroad Workers United, RWU, a cross-union caucus of rank and file railroad union members in North America, has called for public ownership of the railway system. This comes off the heels of railroad workers with the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees, BMWE, voting down their proposed contract earlier this month, further opening the possibility of a strike, which I think we are all aware would be huge for the labor movement. So let's go RWU, and yes, nationalize the railways. Why not? Sounds pretty cool to me. Okay, that's it. And yeah, spooky, woo! Solidarity.
Extremely spooky. We now are going to have a brief update from the International Committee about their recent solidarity work. So Tom, do you want to kick us off?
I sure do. How are we doing, everyone? First of all, wonderful to be here. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tom Wojak. I am one of the steering committee members of the DSA International Committee. Very, very honored to have been invited alongside our very dear friend and comrade, Adrienne Pine, who was one of the panelists yesterday for our wonderful event. Yesterday, as some of you may know, the International Committee hosted a very, very successful educational webinar with 4 panelists discussing some of the ongoing strikes of Honduran workers who have been running into some very, very severe management issues regarding building a U.S. embassy in Honduras. And frankly, I would like to kick it off to Adrienne to just give a very, very brief synopsis of exactly what's going on there and why this is so important and relevant to our work. So take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom, and thanks for having me on the call. You said I have 2 minutes, so I'm going to make it super quick. In 2009, there was a U.S.-supported coup in Honduras that kicked off 12 years of dictatorship that included a real push for neoliberal fascism, basically, including repealing any sort of labor protections and a massive attack on unions overall, and installing new, really anti-worker labor laws. Also, at the same time, the U.S. is building massive new embassies around the world, hundreds of them. One of them is in Honduras. At that site, workers have been tremendously thank you. They have suffered tremendous labor violations over the past 3 years, some of which they are only coming to realize because the company, in collaboration with the Overseas Buildings Operations Office of the State Department, has been deliberately corrupt and violating Honduran labor laws in a way that the workers themselves didn't realize. Now that there is a new, more democratic government, one of the promises of the government was to repeal some of these retrograde labor laws. And in this process, the company, BL Harbert, which is based in Alabama, is building U.S. embassies around the world. And there are labor struggles at many U.S. embassies against their abusive practices. It gave them a contract that did not comply with Honduran law. And so 1,100 workers started striking in July, and they have for months, they were going out almost every day protesting, and the response of the embassy has not been to, of course, to recognize any of the violations of Honduran law that they have been committing, but rather to directly call out the Honduran police, which they basically control because they fund and train them. And use them as well as US trained sharpshooters to threaten and harm and harass the workers. To date, there have been now over almost 200 workers arbitrarily fired in retaliation for organizing to demand that their minimum labor rights be respected. And as a result of the US embassies, of the State Department's really and Harvard's abuses of these workers, many of those workers have already had to leave in caravans to come to the United States. So the US, the White House currently, says it's so pro-labor, and has done some things that are not terrible in the United States, but its policy towards Central America is this root causes strategy, which ostensibly is going to send a lot of jobs. It's going to invest in a lot of jobs in the Northern Triangle of Central America to stem migration, when in fact, the embassy itself, the jobs it's providing are so abusive that workers are and their families are being forced to migrate to the United States. So it really shows the hypocrisy in US labor policy and migration policy. And it was just amazing to see, like, I don't know, 80 workers and their families came onto this call. It meant so much to them. There was a beautiful tweet that the International Committee put out with pictures. Dozens of them sent us pictures of themselves watching the webinar. It really meant the world to them. There's an action link, and I don't know if you want to, Tom, you want to share that? And
yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I really do want to emphasize 2 points that made yesterday so spectacular. One, overwhelmingly, this was an event that was attended by workers on the ground. And in a lot of cases, these workers were sharing their own personal accounts of exactly what was happening. I've never seen that before in a DSA International Committee, just the amount of turnout from the people, of whom this is the focus. So that was absolutely incredible. The second thing that was very notable, and what I think is going to be the future of our collaboration with DSA Labor, we actually had a representative from Birmingham DSA who was able to speak. Why is that important? It's because the company that is responsible for these egregious labor violations is based in Birmingham, Alabama. And not only that, but Birmingham DSA donated $500 to the strike fund of the Honduran workers. $700 was raised at the webinar last night. This is the sort of the work that's the future. In the same way that Starbucks workers are reaching out across borders, across struggles to connect with their colleagues in various other countries. This is the very lifeblood of solidarity. And I came away from this webinar being tremendously moved by the struggle of the Honduran workers. So, like I said, I don't want to speak too much more. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that people might have. But all I want to say is, on behalf of the International Committee, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the very, very robust participation of DSA Labor. And truly and honestly, I think that it is a wonderful format for our relationship going forward, as we, it's not a dichotomy. Our international projects fortify our national projects fortify our international projects. So, like I said, overwhelming home run. Thank you all very much for inviting us to share a little bit about the webinar.
Yes, many people are saying workers of the world unite, perhaps.
Many people.
Do we have any quick questions for the International Committee right now? I don't know. It's always risky to break up the question and answer session, but I want to make sure that everyone gets to ask at the part they want to ask at tonight, since we have a lot going on. So do we have any immediate questions? I also imagine that they'll be able to send out a recording of this call for those of us who couldn't catch the whole thing.
Yes, the webinar will be broadcast eventually, I believe, on either the DSA YouTube or the International Committee YouTube. Also, something I neglected to mention, I have posted in the chat both the strike fund, if you got a couple bucks rattling around in your pocket and you want to throw it towards some Honduran workers, please feel free to use the GoFundMe. Also, we have an action network in which we can send letters to a variety of people in support of the Honduran strikes.
I got some spicy letters back last night, actually. So I see Jerry has a question. Want to go ahead and ask your question, Jerry?
Great work, great work. I was going to ask also about the that webinar was recorded, and I think y'all just said that it's going to be available on YouTube or something soon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We will make that, we will distribute that as much as we possibly can once
Okay.
it's loaded and uploaded.
I
And
think it might be on the Facebook page already as well, from the live stream on the Facebook page.
Sure, that too.
and also I saw the I signed the GoFundMe action thing, and I saw the list of all the people that you want us to write letters to and stuff. Right? You know what I'm talking about? Hello?
Yes, I've included the link in the chat for the Action Network.
Okay, well, I clicked the link, and what came up was a GoFundMe page, but also there was a list of all these individuals to whom we should be writing letters to. And they're all from the company that's building that embassy.
Yeah, so there are two links, one for the GoFundMe and the other through Action Network, which I am posting right now.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right,
Yep.
thank you. Great work.
No worries.
Cool. Thank you so much, comrades. Great work. And we will send out your YouTube when we find out it's up as well. Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So we've all heard about Starbucks Workers United on this series of calls that is, of course, organizing with Workers United in the United States. In Canada, we also have Starbucks workers organizing with United Steelworkers. In New Zealand, we have Starbucks workers who have organized with Unite. And in Chile, we have Sindicato Starbucks. So lots of exciting Starbucks unions throughout the world. But you don't need to hear about it from me. I am going to pass this off next to our speaker, Pablo, from Steelbucks in Canada.
Thank you for inviting us to this meeting. That's very enjoyable to see how the Starbucks movement, what we call it in Canada, is moving along to the United States and part of around the world. And it's exciting because us common enemy, I'll call it, right? The big corporation is Starbucks. United, the workers have the united, we can defeat this big corporation that take money away from the workers and don't give you anything. I was looking forward to talk to the Chilean. I'm a Chilean. I came here to Canada when I was only 12 years old. My family was, I understand what happened in Honduras. My family came as a refugee to Canada in the 1970s, early 80s, as a dictatorship put it by the United States, killed 30,000 people. Until today, we don't have any labor law, right? We have the economical neoliberalism that's supposed to be good, and we're all going to have our cars, we're all going to have our cars, and we're going to have pensions, and today we don't have nothing, right? So start with Canada. We start this, I was preparing to tell you about how the mechanic worked this one, and now listen to all you guys. I think we have to talk more about the human part of this organ, right? The human part, because we don't know how to organize, we don't know how to sign cards, and then we have to have inside committee, and then we go blah, 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 and then there. So in Canada, we start this movement with young workers, and that is the key in Canada. That is that big, we can say, wake up. We have a province they call Alberta. It's very much like a Texas in the United States. And that's where we have the most organizing Starbucks. And the organizing people try to do that one. We start with one in Victoria. We were successful. And after we were successful, we have a little scare because in the 90s, auto workers in Canada organized Starbucks. And they have a lot of Starbucks organizing, but they never achieve a contract. So the certification disappeared. Different to the United States, we have a couple of provinces when we have what we call it automatic certification, right? So you sign card, you get 55%, it's an automatic. We don't need to go to a vote. We don't need to do anything. In Alberta, we have to do the process like in the United States. When we start this movement, we noticed the young workers realize that they need a union, right? In Canada, usually Starbucks was the people they're going to go to university. So they work in there a couple of hours and then make some money to pay the university or get some money to have it in the packet. So it wasn't a job they're going to be doing long time. As the change there, a lot of people start to get a job as a permanent job. And then they realize they don't have any security. They don't have no way to ask in the raises. They have no way to have a health and safety. They have no way to bargain the simple rights that to the workers need. Plus, the more we talk, we find out it's a lot of sexual abuse in this part because they are young kids, and there are a lot of LGBTQ. Most of the managers, they take advantage of this one. So not only that they've been abused as a workers, they've been abused as a person. So the union confront this one. So we decide, a lot of unions, they don't want to have Starbucks because they say we're never going to get a contract. And I believe when you have a union, you don't care. You represent anybody. That's what the union was built, to represent everybody, right? To have a voice in the work, to have a say, to have a responsibility, and give it to the workers the dignity that they have, right? They have to have a dignity. They have to have a power. So we decided to take it. And the history here was that when we get Victoria, in Canada, it was like a boom. We get media as you never believe. The people, we used to knock doors before to tell anything about the union. And now, boom. Today I received from the Globe and Mail, who's the biggest, it's like the Washington Post in the United States. They want to have a interview to tell us the history about Starbucks. So you imagine CBC, ABC, all these channels in Canada, they're looking into this one. To us, it's an immense responsibility to the workers and to the workers. So the reason we came here is in the steelworking, we have what they call Tex. It's a big corporation of mining. They have all over the world, from Chile to South America to New Zealand to United States, and they have like a group every month. They get together and they help each other, and that's why the plea come here. I think we need to have some kind of like that in order to fight the Starbucks, so they can Starbucks have the pressure not only in the United States, all in Chile and wherever we can have it, right? So if they have a problem in Las Vegas or the front, so we be able to put a push here in the media with one voice, right? So the Starbucks need to hear that we are united. The big problem now we have is to keep the young workers conscious into the union, right? In Canada, it's different. We don't need to pay. The medicine is a universal, right? We have a lot of universal things we can go study. So it's a lot of social mess that is very, but less and less, Canadians, see how our life system been slowly chipping out, right? So before we never pay something, now we have to pay 50%. So we worry about it. So I think this is the time to the Starbucks to promote unions around the workers. 45% of the Canadian workers, they are unionized. So we have 3% more, we're going to be 50% of the unionized in Canada. So we need your help. We need to be together. So we reach out to the Congress in the United States to form a proper Starbucks committee. So we can talk each other, we can create plans. So we're gonna attack the Starbucks. We need to put a plan together to exchange people. This United States workers, we wanted to put some money in this one in order to have this one. So I don't know what the people are thinking, and I wanna just talk Jen. Jen is a unique case. She came from TELUS, who's the biggest company, communication company. And I said, because she's really spoke out, right? She liked to speak, and she's passionate, and she's all like that. And I said, okay, Jen, you're gonna come with me to do organizing. She said, Pablo, I don't know. I tried her before. She said, and she's wonderful. And I'm so proud to her, right? My job in the union, I'm the head organizer. I'm in charge of organizing all the Western Canada, who's the biggest geographic. You imagine how big is this country. So I go from Manitoba all the way to British Columbia, the territory. So it's big. So Jen is doing the Texas, they're better. And she's fantastic doing that. Good job. I think you guys need to hear her a little bit how we do it. And then if you guys have questions, we are willing to respond to any questions you want to ask to us. And for somebody, I'm very glad to invite me here. And too bad it wasn't the children. I was practicing my Spanish because long time to speak Spanish, so I'm trying to practice it out. And I don't want to do it.
Oh, thanks so much, Pablo. And thanks so much for having me here. It's really great to see organizers from all across Canada, or sorry, all across from the world. And then, sorry, all of a sudden my dog is going nuts. I apologize for that. But yeah, it's just been really great organizing Starbucks workers. They're so intelligent, and it just makes me so proud how they organize within each other. You know, they really, you know, it's different organizing, I find, with Starbucks partners because they already support each other so much already. And so it makes it a lot easier for forming a union. And like Pablo said, really the focus on health and safety is a real big one here too as well. I think that's it for me.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for our friends from Canada right now? Go ahead, Riley on Stat.
Hi, I realized I've been off mute this entire time. Luckily, nothing spicy has happened in the background. Hi, y'all. So glad that y'all are here. Solidarity. I live in Dallas, Texas, so very far away from y'all, but much love, especially for y'all organizing in Alberta. That's amazing. I guess my question is kind of a political question. So I'm wondering, I know that the governmental system in Canada is a little different than in the United States. So I guess my question is twofold. Like, what role would you like the Trudeau Liberal government to play in y'all's organizing efforts? Is there anything that they could do but they're not doing that you think would make your organizing easier? And two, what role would you like the NDP to play that they're not currently playing? And do you think that they could be of any assistance at all in your organizing efforts?
Well, I'm just going to tell you, the organizing in Canada is doing by province, what you guys call it states. So the federal jurisdiction is only applied to certain places like railway, airplanes, trains, everything move between the state. Let's put it that way so you guys can understand. But every province has their own labor standard to regulate the organizing. So in my province, I'm in British Columbia. I'm lucky because I have the NDP, who's really a little bit left than the Democrat. Is more left than Democrat, a center left, we tell it. So we have a great. Janet is in the worst part of Canada. It's like the Republicans. They're no comment. So what we planning now is we're gonna do lobby day. So what we're doing it is like for example now they do a lobby in the state government, put a state legislation in British Columbia. So we're pushing for more. We want to have more access to talk with the workers. In this moment, we don't have access to go to the workers. The unions, they're fighting that one. In Alberta, we're looking for automatic certification. A lot of provinces, they already start to do automatic certification. So like I said, 55%, the union is in. You don't need to do. If you don't get the 55%, you can get 45% and you go to a vote. So we have 2 shots to the bucket. So that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted. That's what we're pushing, to have 2 times the vote. We respect why we want you to help us. I think, for example, what we're talking about, I read a lot about a strategic Starbucks is closing locations in the United States. And that one is a little fear for us to do that one. So we decide to go with only for the Starbucks. We are corporation and they are very busy for now. So, but I think if we can talk each other when you guys have a place where they're gonna close it, tell us, and we can move the labor movement in Canada to put it that one into the media in Canada, so we can push it to Starbucks, right? Starbucks here in Canada, they have the Goody Two-Shoes Clean Corporation, right? We are so clean. We came coffee not from Colombia, because they're using the labor kit, when it's not true because they still use it. So we can destroy the image. The image of Starbucks is all about image. So we need to fight that image. So for example, now we fighting in British Columbia to have one master agreement. So we can have all master agreement that any Starbucks coming in go to this master agreement. So, and then that way we can have more power. Trudeau doesn't have very much because it's not jurisdiction of the federal government. So he doesn't know anything about it. And into the federal jurisdiction, they already have automatic certification. And we have like a online sign. I don't know if in the United States they have that one. So we can give you a link and they can sign online, and then we can submit that cards. Every province now have online sign cards. So I think it's easy for us.
Thank you so much. We will have a little bit more time for questions at the end, but I think for now we will go ahead and move forward. So I'm going to introduce Edith from Starbucks Workers United. Hello, Edith, take it away.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Edith. I use they pronouns. I'm one of the one of many organizers with Starbucks Workers United, and I'm based in Capitola, California. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about my experience in Chile and connecting with the Sindicato Starbucks down in South America. And what the whole like event was about. So the Encuentro Internacional de Trabajadores was the like Congress. It was kind of like a Congress of Starbucks workers hosted by Starbucks, the Sindicato Starbucks, and they invited fast food union workers from McDonald's, Burger King in Chile, and then Domino's from Colombia, Starbucks and McDonald's from Brazil, and other fast food also in Argentina. So yeah, so we were able to really start off the day with a bunch of different presentations coming from their committee. They have a committee in the Starbucks workers, like in Chile, have a committee of women and gender nonconforming folks. So they were able to give us a presentation about what their committee does, what are the campaigns they're waging. So it's really about the sexual harassment and that's specific to women and gender nonconforming folks in the workplace. And knowing that, you know, Starbucks is a very gendered workplace as well. You know, you see a lot of baristas who are women or gender nonconforming folks. They saw the need to take up this committee and start a campaign for to protect those workers. So we were able to hear from them. We were also able to hear from the president of the McDonald's union worker, who the McDonald's and like Papa John's and Burger King unions actually have formed like a bigger umbrella union that helps them organize all three restaurant unions together. It's called the Interempresa Sindicato, which is just the like intercompany union in Chile. And so they were talking about how the need for this was really because a lot of the conditions for fast food workers were very similar across the board, and how, you know, these restaurants have started to appear more and more and more through Chile. And it's really because, you know, these companies know that they can go to other countries and really undermine their labor to lessen their costs and gain more profits. So the reason why they really united together was in 2019 was to better able to coordinate all the fast food restaurant unions that go through the same thing. And then I was able to speak on behalf of Starbucks Workers United. The DSA Labor Committee was really good in like priming y'all what's happening now. But yeah, we have around 125 fired workers at the moment. That's like probably not the current number anymore, but the number I gave to the Chile people. And so we're also at the peak of trying to bargain with the company, and they're starting to walk out on us. We've seen a lot of strikes across the stores for various different ELPs or unfair labor practices, of people getting fired, of things not getting fixed, benefits that they've like withheld from us, and so on. And so that's kind of where we're at with our campaign. Currently have around 240 stores that are unionized. And so we're at the very early stages, and that's what I was able to tell the Chile folks. And so they've been there like 10 years ago. They started their unionizing in 2009. And they also saw a lot of workers being fired, a lot of like truths, or like a lot of like lies that the company was giving them for people to not sign up for the union. And how it works over there is they unionize through person on an individual basis. So you as a Starbucks worker can join the union and become a unionized member and like get the benefits from that and get the protections from that. But it doesn't mean that the rest of your coworkers on the floor are also unionized, like how in the US we have to unionize store by store, and you know, we have to get at least the 30% of union cards signed, and so on and so on. Y'all shared the timeline as well. But it's very different. So it's really up to that individual person to help the union further like spread the union in those stores. But you as an individual member can be a part of it. So they said that like it's really easy in that way, because then like that individual person can really help the union like really spread in the store if they have really good relationships. But it does single out people a lot more, right? So they were going through the same union busting that our movement is going through right now. And so after these presentations, we were able to break up into small groups and talk about what we're seeing now. And I was like hopping from group to group because I was the only like Starbucks Workers United rep there. And so I was wanting to hear from all the Starbucks workers and what the kind of conditions they're facing right now, and what are the campaigns they're working on, and how they even got there. So after this like small group breakout time, they were really able to draft resolutions. So the secretariat of their union was able to draft resolutions. I cannot share those are not public. But yeah, they were able to like really listen to the workers that were able to go to the Congress. And you know, like people from Domino's, people from McDonald's and Burger King were also able to like support in those conversations for the resolutions. But the resolutions really were for the Starbucks workers. And it was also to inspire those other unions and to potentially drafting resolutions like that as well. And so I'm really excited moving forward to continue working with the sindicato in Chile. And in these pictures you see some of this on the left side, it's this, two people of the secretariat. And then in the middle top picture, you see the commission that I was talking about, or the committee of women and gender nonconforming folks. And so, yeah, it was really nice to talk to other Starbucks workers and see what they're facing and see how we can continue to collaborate, especially because, you know, if the company wants to globalize to raise their profits, then we should globalize our organizing efforts too, to fight for workers' rights. And so that's what we're going to be doing moving forward. And I'm really hopeful to connect with any Starbucks worker across in any country to continue to, go against the same enemy, which we know is the CEO who holds the most profits. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. But yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to stack yourself in the chat.
I have a question. If you don't mind.
Go ahead, go ahead.
This sindicato that was in Chile was created. We have a contact that may be going to use to you guys. They call CTMX. Steel workers being in there in Chile since the 1979, helping the union. Why are you talking about the law? The one guy that came there because they can't change the constitution, so it's a sectorial. So they want to keep it that way. They want to keep it that only one guy go there, so they keep the union. They don't go together. That's what they do, right? They did it since that I was a kid in Chile. In Colombia, we have what they call Ecopetrol union, who's the biggest union in Colombia. I know the president personally. I've been working with them. That's the biggest. They have more power. So if you want it, Saldana, we can talk and we can put it connected that union so they can help with the workers, right? They can give you support. Is there. So it's just a matter to talk. I was looking forward to talk with the Chilean guys. So amazing to hear that happen. So if you want it, I can leave my email that Heather have it, so we can talk about how I can connect you with you people. And that one, they're going to give you support because that two sindicatos, they are under Humanity Fund, with the steel workers pay money for them to do. So we can tell them help these people, right? That's what it's about. Humanity Fund is give you money for different unions so they can be working together. And what you said, Edith, I found it excellent to have a one big thing there. If you want it, we can talk and maybe we can put some money and we can have a conference in British Columbia, so we can bring people from the United States and Canada. So we're talking about Starbucks. I think it's going to be a fantastic way to do it. I mean, I push it. You tell me and I push it. I want this one so badly that I want to have a big fuerza. So we can do this one. Thank you for your work, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And this is it's beautiful to see everyone making connections and the solidarity here. We do have one ask for DSA members who are already members of unions. We are still asking you to try to move a union resolution through your local to donate to the Workers United Strike and Defense Fund. So it was a sample resolution that we put up in there. But this is one of the ways that we do show up in solidarity for each other, is supporting each other when we go on strike, providing for each other's material needs and taking care of each other. I wanted to put a quick call out. Is Joe from New Zealand on this call right now? Because it seems like he wasn't able to make it, but maybe I'm seeing him under a different name. So if you're here, Joe, please come on. Okay, well, we're approaching the end of our time anyways. I do hope we see our comrade Joe back, because Joe is an incredible speaker and we love to connect with our New Zealand friends as well. We do, of course, have our traditional asks at the end of this call. If you have not already, please sign the No Contract, No Coffee pledge and share it with at least 10 people that you know. And of course, your Starbucks Workers United we'll be reaching out to you about further actions moving forward. Oh, there's a nice picture of Unite. We also are asking you, if your chapter hasn't yet, to please fill out the Adopt a Store form to get connected directly with your local organizing committee. And Amanda's got this up here again. Once again, we are asking you to do the moving the resolution through your union if you're a union member somewhere else. Of course, if any Starbucks workers are on this call, please reach out to Starbucks Workers United directly to organize with the union. Our next call like this will be on Monday, November 7th. The theme is Queer Solidarity is Brewing, and we're going to be talking about how in union busting, one of the things that Starbucks is doing right now is showing like fake queer solidarity, but we as queer people have to show real solidarity for each other, forming our unions and really show up for each other and not let Starbucks separate us on issues of healthcare, etc., because that's one of the ways they're trying to union bust. We also have a 5-part training series for your chapter if you are interested in forming a labor committee. And of course, stay in touch with DSA Labor. We have the Solidarity Fund. As you heard earlier, DSA Labor gave some money to support this organizing effort in Honduras, workers' strike, and we will be supporting other strikes as well moving forward. We've got 5 minutes left, so I want to open it up for questions to make sure that everyone can discuss everything that they need to get through. We have some additional items in the agenda for like next meetings, but I will go ahead and make sure that you just get the links for those together. And yes, okay, I'm gonna drop the agenda one more time in the chat. It has like every link you might need moving forward. Do you want to come on? Anyone can come on Stack if you want to ask a question. This is usually such a question-y crowd, and we don't have any tonight. Don't make me think of one. Let's see.
I'm on Stack.
Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
I just wanted to thank actually Pablo and Jen for mentioning the harassment and discrimination against queer people and your unions. And I just wanted to offer that I put my email in the Stack, but Pride at Work has sample contract language for organizing LGBT workers. And if there's anything else Pride at Work can do to support what you're doing in your union organizing at all, please, drop me a line and I'll get it to our national office.
I just want to tell you, we protect when they do the transition. We went into the board. The board is like I presume it's the same United States, and we filed with the Starbucks because they want to use the legal name. Our position, the legal name is what they use it now. That's just our position. And we in the contract we did it in Victoria. We have clause to protect the transgenders, and everybody have the thing that all the things that they be protected under the law, because in British Columbia we have a law to protect all the transitions. So we will do that. So and especially when I heard that in 21st century people is still discriminated for that. It's apostrophe to me. It's I don't understand what's going on in the brain, right? It's just is not possible for me to understand that you get a discrimination because your sexual orientation is wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Got Riley on Stack. And we will definitely invite Joe back. I'm sorry we missed him too, but we'll be in touch.
Hi, I'm back. Once again, thanks for everybody that's been on the call. My question is for our comrade Edith, who was on the call. I still see them. Edith, you're in California somewhere, right? I don't know exactly where your store is. I'm sorry. I just wanted, if you feel comfortable sharing, where is your store in terms of like the organizing and bargaining process, and like what is the I guess the labor landscape like in California for Starbucks Workers United more broadly? And have they talked to you at all about what the implications are going to be of this new like fast food workers labor board thing that was just signed into law recently? I've been thinking about that a lot. I have zero conception of what that might look like.
Yeah, so my store won its union in June, and like how in the timeline it shows, you know, you create relationships, you form an organizing committee. The turnover has been really bad, and a lot of Starbucks workers, or like shops, like even the non-union ones, you know, have like really bad turnover because of like the fast-paced environment, the expectations from the company, the very low pay. And so we had to basically start over from like our organizing committee, because only like now like 5 or 4 people from the eligible voting list from the original like 20 something are still there. And so a lot of this is, you know, continuing to make those relationships, continuing to do the education, the political education with your coworkers about what it's like to unionize, what a union means, and what kind of rights you can fight with, or what are the workers' rights that you get with a union and you can fight for. So we're always at every stage in that timeline, realistically. Currently we do have a bargaining date that we're preparing for. So right now we're really preparing for that. But in terms of like the fast food law that you're talking about, they have not talked to us at all. So I'm curious to see what they say about that, because how they disseminate news from like corporation to the worker is very idealistic. They want us to like log into an app every day to like get news, and then they have like weekly updates. But sometimes you're just kind of thrown on the floor. You know, you're like, oh, you're clocked in. All right, get on bar. Like you don't have time to look at those paperwork. So yeah, we haven't heard anything. And if there are any updates on there, on like our weekly updates, I haven't seen it yet.
Great, thank you so much. No, that was really helpful. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Does anyone have any store or chapter updates that they want to give right now while we're all here together? You know, some of your, go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, I don't know if we said this way. Our call in November on the 7th is going to be the only call for November. We've been doing them every 2 weeks. We're going to take a break to rest and do holiday things, or maybe be working more because of holiday things, depending on your industry. So just the 7th for our next Solidarity is Brewing call for November.
Thank you so much. It is super important to take time if you need it. And also in our other industries, of course, some of that time is unfortunately being taken up by your job. So dependent on that. But December as well, we'll only have one call. So just to forewarn you. We have a question from Susan. Are Starbucks organizers in other countries also in their 20s in general?
Yes, the average is 19, 16 to 20 to 24 to 25. And for Canada, we are a country, we have very population, the population is very old. So for us, it's very young. So it's good, it's really good.
It's wonderful to see this revitalization of the labor movement throughout the world. I see Sean on Stack, and then I think we're gonna close Stack and call it a night so we can get some of this rest. Hearing that Serena worked a 12-hour day, probably time to have dinner, go to bed. But go ahead, Sean.
Just a quick update from out here in the Chicago suburbs. If anybody's in the area, the store in Elmhurst is currently in their unionizing process. Their vote is on election day. And I'm actually here making some buttons, getting everything ready with some of the workers and getting ready for a sip-in tomorrow and just preparing for the union vote. So very exciting. Thank you.
Let us know.
Thank you so much. I see some connections being made in the chat, and we'll also follow up with everyone with the video for sure, and some links with next steps. I hope that this isn't the last time we'll be seeing our international comrades. Thank you so much for being here, folks. Really, really appreciate it. These calls are always so inspiring to me. Gonna go to bed too now and get up and fight the boss in the morning in my union. So everyone take care. Can't wait to see you on November 7th. Solidarity forever.